Well, we're here. Thanks for having us in to your office. Here to talk about 100 days. It goes by pretty quick, I would imagine, and it's been pretty busy for the last 3 months. If you just had to sort of highlight in a small way or in a quick way, succinctly, what has this 100 days been like for you in the office? Is that a loaded question?
No, I love the question because uh, the answer I give most often to how's it going is my hair's on fire. And that's just the nature of the prosecutor's office. It's very, very busy, and it's very, very important, and in many times it's very, very tragic. So we came in, I know the day we came in, but I'm trying to phrase this correctly. So the first challenge we had was to staff up. When I was on the campaign trail and when I met with people, I pledged that I was not going to come in with a sledgehammer and fire people just because they were Republican. And I meant it. But even so, about a quarter of our 120 attorneys did decide to leave before I took office. And so I had to quickly plug those holes. And we didn't miss a beat. We have been able to successfully staff all 30 courtrooms in the courthouse, as well as the Court of Appeals, the grand jury, juvenile court. We did not miss a beat. And frankly, that's because I brought in a really crackerjack leadership team. They are, of the 5 people I brought in, 4 started their careers in this office. And they were excited to come back, get back to the work of serving the public. They are sharp legal minds. They have great leadership skills, and they share my vision for justice with integrity.
Was there something that maybe you expected when you took over this office that was a little bit different, or is this kind of what you expected when you took the job?
The biggest surprise has been how much of my job takes place outside of the courthouse. I have met with, I would say, 36 different groups, ranging from community groups that do citizens patrol and nonprofits that try to get kids on the straight and narrow, law enforcement groups, police chiefs, rank and file officers, investigators. Everyone that is interested in public safety wants to get to know the new prosecutor, and I feel that it's my duty to let them know how I want to do things.
And then looking into now the 100 days, you obviously had some very specific goals and things you already mentioned sort of on the campaign trail. What does that look like? Have you been able to reach some of those goals already? Are you, is it going to be 6 months? Is it a year? Is it a process that never stops?
Well, the world is always changing and law is always changing, so that of course never stops. But my very first goal was to create a training plan, and I did that. We started last month in March. I chose a very seasoned assistant prosecuting attorney to be the chief training officer. He's got 49 years of experience in this office, and he's just an old hand, and he's been doing a yeoman's job helping our youngest lawyers know the tools of the trade. You've got to be technically competent in the courtroom if you want to win your cases, and that means you have to know how to present a case. You have to know how to pick a jury. You have to know how to handle motions. You have to know how to admit evidence. And not every lawyer graduates from law school with those tools in their pocket. So he's been doing one-on-one coaching in the courtroom as well as topical seminars so that people know what they have to do.
Is that training that wasn't happening under the previous?
As far as I know, it has never happened before. And since the training officer I chose has been here for 49 years, he confirmed that.
Wow. And what are you seeing in terms of results then within the courtroom because of things like that?
Well, we are seeing some good results. And look, I'm military. We trained and trained and trained, and we had to know our jobs inside and out. And that's why I rely on it here. I mean, I rely a lot on my military experience for all of the things I'm doing as a leader in this office. But we have seen some really good courtroom results, and my training officer has been giving me feedback every week on what he's observing in the courtroom, telling me how one assistant prosecutor did a great job handling a motion to suppress. Another assistant prosecutor who hadn't been able to get evidence admitted before now is doing it successfully. You know, the judge has to follow the law, and if we don't do our job correctly, then we are not serving the public.
You mentioned a little bit your vision of justice. What is that? What does that look like?
Well, I tell people that it's justice with integrity. And there is a false narrative that I have confronted, especially on the campaign trail, and even after getting elected, that equity and public safety are mutually exclusive, because they are not. They have to go together. Because if we don't try our cases with integrity and with equity in mind, then we run the risk of sending innocent people to jail and letting guilty people go free. And that does not translate into public safety. I want to do it the right way.
Yeah. You've had, obviously, recently some high-profile events that you've sort of had to take over as the prosecutor for Hamilton County, specifically the shooting that happened with the Laughlin officer on I-75. You had your news conference about that. That's something that's never easy for the public to sort of see. It's not something that you want to deal with. It's obviously not something that the officers and the departments want to deal with. We've gotten a lot of questions about it, as you could imagine, as many people do. When you're standing in front of something like that and you're having to make those decisions as the head of Hamilton County's prosecutorial arm, what are you looking at in making the decisions that then may either, in this case, clear an officer, or in some cases then charge one?
Yeah. So my policy is that someone from my office responds to every officer-involved shooting. In these initial months, I have 4 of us responding so that we can see the different circumstances, 4 leaders in my office, as well as me. And I did respond to the shooting on I-75. I got to see where the decedent, Mr. Mumyawatete, was. I got to see where the taser had been dropped. I got to see the other evidence, the weapon Mr. Mumyawatete was carrying. It's also our policy that we listen to the involved officer's statement, whether it's at the scene or back at the station, or sometimes both. And then we were fortunate to have some body-worn camera by a sheriff's deputy, K-9 officer, who also responded to the area. Because if you remember, this started with a stolen car that crashed in Evendale, and the occupants fled. So it turned into a search for the occupants who were running through the fields near the interstate. And this deputy with the K-9 showed. But when he heard the radio traffic from the Laughlin officer, who was calling for backup and said things like ASAP, he's got a weapon, he won't show me his hands, he's not cooperating, things like that. You could see in the body-worn camera from the deputy, he was running down the exit ramp towards the officer, towards the now decedent, and towards the flashing lights on the patrol car. So my team and I looked at all of that, but I made the decision of that was a clean shooting, that the video evidence clearly showed, unfortunately, that Mr. Mumyawatete ran or approached and lunged towards the police officer with a pipe over his head that he could use to bludgeon. And the poor officer, he was on I-75. He had backed up. He had used his taser, but he couldn't really back up into traffic because the interstate was not yet closed.
And that's how you made the call.
Yeah, and Monday morning, I went and met with the family and told them what our findings were. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. They were absolutely devastated, absolutely devastated. But fortunately, they had their minister there, they had a translator there, they had some local friends of the family there to help them.
That was actually one of the questions. If you don't mind, let me grab this real quick because this is a secondary question to what I had. One of our viewers, Pat, had sent a number of questions, but one that sort of is germane to what we're talking about. Is there a way, is there some sort of thought, and I don't know if you can answer this, but I'm just going to ask, if someone's not responding to police commands, maybe they don't understand the language, is there something that needs to be built in? Is there something you can do at the prosecutor's office to sort of go over? I realize it's not the same as law enforcement, right? Law is not the same as law enforcement, but something that maybe needs to be talked about here in the county in terms of having more of that, as we're starting to see more and more maybe migrants or immigrants or people who don't necessarily understand what an officer is saying at a scene.
Overcoming the language barrier would be extremely difficult. It's my understanding that the decedent migrated here from the Congo, where they have 200 different dialects. I looked it up so I could learn how to pronounce his name. And they have 3 or 4 different languages that are predominant, including Swahili, which is what I understand he spoke. But if you are in this country for only 6 months, coming from a culture that is clearly foreign to us, this must be clearly foreign to him, there's no way for any officer to know that ahead of time. And I could never expect law enforcement to know all the languages on the planet. It's just impossible to do that. So I think what I have seen to be successful and what this officer from Laughlin did do correctly, we could see that he backed up, that he, before deploying his weapon, he did try non-lethal force with the taser. He backed up again. He called for help. He asked for help ASAP. He did all the right things to de-escalate. And if the canine officer had been in the area maybe 30 seconds earlier, he could have deployed the dog.
Sure.
And we just would have had a dog bite. But we'd still have Mr. Munyaruteta living and breathing.
And that's not the nature of how these things go. They happen very quickly.
Oh,
very quickly.
Very quickly. Yeah. But this officer, in my judgment, he did a good job. He tried to de-escalate. He was backed up against the wall of traffic, if you will, and really had no alternative. Yeah,
nowhere else to go. There's obviously a good chance down the road, hopefully not, but there is a chance that you're going to end up doing this again down the road. It's sort of where we are with the society at large. Speaking of another huge issue, as we sort of talked before the camera started rolling, we're getting ready for an initiative that is sort of looking at the opioid crisis. It was something that you talked about during your campaign. And just recently, yesterday, you were able to put down an indictment against an accused dealer for selling fentanyl to a buyer who died. I know that it's sort of fresh, but in the overall maybe 30,000-foot view of that, in tackling a crisis like that, how important is it to get somebody like this, again accused, off the streets, in jail, going through the process to be adjudicated?
Getting a drug dealer for involuntary manslaughter because of him dealing fentanyl, that's huge. And I have to thank the Heroin Task Force for the years of work they did putting together and preserving evidence and chasing down leads, lots of false leads, of course, in this case. And I also want to thank, well, let me rephrase that. When I was in the legislature, one of the bills I pushed through, it was a collaborative effort, it wasn't just me, but one of the bills I co-sponsored was a bill to require the collection of DNA for people arrested on felonies in Ohio. Because that passed, when this defendant got arrested on alternative charges, we could sampled his DNA, we put it into the combined DNA index system, and we got a hit on the drugs that killed the decedent.
Wow.
3 years ago now. That's how it works. It's hard, it takes time, but the system can work. And look, I want to get these dealers locked up and off the streets. We're going to throw the book at this guy.
Any other, again, in the 30,000-foot view of it, going away from that case, the more that your office is able to bring those indictments, do you think that it, I don't know, puts out a warning to people who are doing these things out on the streets that the book's going to get thrown at them?
Well, I'd like to think it will have an impact on drug trafficking, but we all know you can't arrest your way out of this problem. We have to stop the demand. And that's a little bit outside the purview of my office, but I certainly want to be a partner in any way that I can to help that. But really the heroin task force that was started by the county commissioners several years ago, they are the ones that made this possible. And of course, all the systems in place to test for DNA, to test the drug found on the body, to test the drug found at a scene. That's very important.
Technology's helping.
Well, technology is huge. We can test smaller and smaller samples of DNA and find the right hit. We can test a sample that might have multiple people's DNA in it, and we can determine who those are. Technology is helping us immeasurably, and it's very exciting to be seeing that happen in real time.
Yeah. This might sound like a weird question, but do you have fun in this job? Are you having fun in this job? Is it a job that, I don't know, brings you joy? Is it like a fulfilling?
The job is extremely fulfilling because I feel like I'm serving our community, and my goal is to make sure that when our assistant prosecutors are in the courtroom, they have all the tools and training they need to be excellent attorneys, but they also have the ethical guidelines to not cheat, because we don't need to cheat to win cases. And that's what we see in some of the publicized cases that have been overturned. And I want to make sure that we don't do that anymore. So I feel like I'm serving the public that way, especially in addition to that, with a focus on making sure we don't lock up innocent people just to get a win, but that we go find the real guilty people.
How do you do that? Sorry, how do you do that
Well,
when maybe it's a bigger, more high-profile case, and you've got the public sort of clamoring to make to bring someone to whatever the justice is,
Yeah.
and you're like, but this isn't
Well,
the person.
I gotta own that. If there's a lot of public pressure, I gotta own my decision. My decision is going to be to follow the ethical standards required of my profession. And they're high. People might not believe it, but I think they're high.
They are high.
That's my Air
They
Force
are high,
coming
right?
up. Yeah, yeah. So I do want to make sure that you know that we've made some, in addition to starting the training program, we have taken the first step to upgrade our technology. I signed a contract in, I think it was February, to upgrade it's our first technology upgrade. It'll be implemented starting July. And this is going to help us track evidence, review body-worn camera footage, make sure we send evidence to the defense attorney that they're required to get. It's going to be very, very helpful. But we have our next step is to upgrade our case management system, which I hope that I sign that contract before the fall.
Okay.
So that's going to take 18 months to implement. But these things take time, but we have to do it because we can't do our job properly and efficiently if we don't have modern technology. Given the technology that is available to the rest of the counties surrounding us, we are 30 years behind.
Wow.
But I embrace technology. Again, what we were talking about, me doing comm electronics in the Air Force, I dealt with technology all the time. So I embrace it. The other thing we're doing to modernize the office is we have just released our new parental leave policy. I was very shocked at learning what the policy was when I arrived. It was almost cruel, but now it's competitive, and it takes into account physical recovery for birth mothers. It takes into account, well, that's what it does. It takes into account physical recovery for birth mothers.
Which it should.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the most
Well,
important thing.
as a mother, I understand, but also understands that both parents might need to spend time with a newborn, and that having a modern and competitive parental leave policy, that's going to help me attract and retain talented lawyers, because lawyers can go out to the private firms and make a lot more money, but working here, they can serve the public, they can often have a great work-life balance, and they can be welcomed and respected.
You said earlier in our conversation that you had made those hires, obviously necessary hires to fill out. Did you find it hard to find? I mean, there's no shortage of people going to law school and wanting to be lawyers, but I don't know. You know, we hear when it comes to, say, police departments, and their sort of hiring over the last 5 or 6 years has been difficult. Did you find that when you were making these hires?
Yeah, it was very challenging to fill those holes created by the staff who left, because the people who left had been here a long time. And so they were medium, like say 10 years experience, and then those who were finishing their careers and retiring to do something else. So that was very challenging, but we did do it. We did a run of, we did a data run, I think yesterday, that showed that we are prosecuting the same number of cases that my 2 predecessors did. So we have not missed a beat. We're still in court every day.
Still doing it. Still doing it. What do you want when this is all said and done? Like, looking past your 100 days, if everything that you want as a goal happens, how would you like to sort of leave this office? Not saying that's 4 years from now.
Well, yeah, who knows when it is, but I think the changes that I've been making and the leadership that I'm bringing to my team of 120 lawyers and 80 support staff is that we want to achieve justice with integrity. And I want that to be the goal and in the minds of all of my prosecuting attorneys. We don't prosecute cases that we think are faulty. We don't go for the win at all costs, because that's not what justice is. We have to let the system work as it was designed. Now, it is by definition an adversarial system. That's what it's supposed to be. But we have to rely on the power of our juries and the wisdom of our judges to make those final calls. We put our best case forward. We do it with integrity. We prepare thoroughly. I think those are the things. We've had, just as we've been implementing training and talking to especially our junior attorneys about what they need, they want training, they want to know how to prosecute operating a vehicle while impaired, OVI. They want tech. Those are the 3 things they told me. Oh, also parental leave. But those are the 3 things that they think will help them in the courtroom. And if we give them that, plus the coaching and mentoring that I'm putting into place, they're going to be great lawyers. And I want people to be proud of being a prosecutor, that it's really important, and that the world needs them to be great prosecutors and putting their cases on fully, and maybe with flair if that's the style they want to use, but to do it with integrity.
Combating the flair of the defense sometimes.
Yes, we've all seen those.
They get highlighted and spotlighted a lot. Anything else that you want to add about the 100 days so far that I've not asked?
Do you mind if I look? So I
please
talked
do.
about training, technology, parental leave. Well, you guys don't care about, we're gonna have a pumping room for new mothers.
That's great.
Nobody cares about that but me.
That's probably very helpful,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, well, these are the stats that, if you want to take a look at them.
This is for...
These are the grand jury stats that show
okay.
we're indicting just pretty much in
Same.
line with the last
Same amount.
2-3 years, yeah.
It seems like a lot.
Well, and
But
drugs,
it's a big county.
drugs are the largest population.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah, they really are. And of course, we have everything else.
Yeah.
And so we might want to talk about the stadium.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we are in an early phase of talking about the stadium. I'm very excited that we have a national expert on stadium deals, David Abrams, and he knows the market. So that, 20 some odd years ago when they negotiated this stadium deal, nobody here really knew what was a competitive deal. Mr. Abrams does, and he will be our lead negotiator. We're really, really excited about that.
Yeah. He's getting paid enough, so hopefully he's going to do a great job. Me as a Hamilton County taxpayer
Yes.
saying this.
Yeah.
Is there, within that deal, just because of what happened yesterday, where you've got the governor saying, and I know it's two separate things, the lease with Hamilton County is vastly different than what's going on with the state, and he's saying like, well, we're probably not going to give you the $350 million because we're already giving the Browns $600 million for their new stadium. Does that throw a wrench into any? Do you think it might throw a wrench into the negotiations with the Bengals trying to keep them here in Hamilton County for an extended number of years, decades even?
It's hard to know what the governor's going to do and what the state legislature's going to do. And, I'm slipping back into my state representative days
Sure.
where I think the most important thing we invest in is our children and their education, but clearly the legislature has
Seems
different
like we're
plans.
going on a different route.
Yes, they
with
they
that
want
right
to
now.
they want to invest in the Cleveland Browns, but it is hard to know what the governor's going to do. But if the Bengals want to find out, then they need to come to the table.
Are they not doing that?
I can't say because negotiations are private at
Sure.
this point.
Sure.
Mm.
But it's happening. That's what
It's
you
going to happen.
that
I
something
can't
is
tell you
happening.
when, but it's going to happen.
Um,
But we all know they have until the 30th of June
Right.
to decide whether or not they're going to extend their lease
okay.
or
And
not.
that's to extend it for the 2 year.
Yeah, they can
correct?
extend it for 2 years, and they can do that 5 times in a row.
Got it. Okay. So we
But at some point,
at some point they got to.
we're gonna
Someone has to go to the
yeah,
table.
and look, I think the commissioners have done a great job laying forth their maintenance plan and their upgrades plan that they did last fall. I do think that they want to see some good results for the taxpayers.
Is it strange for you that you're sort of intimately involved in a way in what's going on here with the sports team that pretty much everyone loves over here, and then over on this other side you're putting away what? You brought 1,400 cases to the grand jury. I mean, it's just such a dichotomy.
Well, yeah, it's a big office. We do have that civil side that most people don't know about because what impacts us most is public safety. So I can tell you that my husband gives me ideas for the lease every single day.
He's on it. Even if I can't,
Yeah.
he is doing it. Well, I'm glad somebody is. Anything else that you want to add?
No, just thank you for your interest. It's a huge responsibility, and there's so much tragedy in our world and in our community. But I do want people to know that there are way many good people than bad people, and we need to take comfort in that. And that's what's helping me get through handling these very tragic cases, knowing that for every horrible tragedy, there are probably 1,000 people living their lives in good ways. And I'm grateful that we have a community such as this where people do that.